Welcome to Good Dogs of Service, where we speak to professional dog handlers about their working canines, service dogs, therapy dogs, and dogs in training. And today we're speaking to Gary and Tara Elbrecht, and I've been longtime friends of them, and I'm so excited that we finally gotten to this point where we get to talk because Tara and Gary have so much experience in the dog training world, and I'm going to let them tell you about their business, how they got started, their extensive expertise in the dog training area, and I am going to just hand it off to them because I just will not do it justice if I try to go through it myself. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your background, your journey in meeting, both of your experiences with dogs, and then all the way up to how you started your business. And by the way, what is your business name?
Okay. All around canine training is our business now. How we started into dog training from the beginning, gosh, I'd say probably hunting dogs
Oh,
prior to the military. So
I
hunting
didn't know
dogs,
that.
yeah, that's the first formal training that I've ever had. And I was actually, I wasn't even doing hunting dogs at the beginning. I was throwing the dead ducks for the hunting dogs to go grab. Yeah. Super easy job, but that's what got me into it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of blossomed when I got to the military. Did not try to go military dog trainer at all. I just went into a different branch. And by being military police, I had the opportunity to go canine. And then from advanced, from canine, just regular canine school, you have the garrison side or you have the field side. The garrison side's like search and barracks. For me, it wouldn't be a very fun job. I don't want to get my Marines in trouble. I wouldn't be the guy that would be good at doing that. But there's also the field side where you keep the Marines safe and you can find explosives or bite bad guys or find bad guys, and that's where the that's where the real fun started because it was more of a challenge. And then from there, we just kept going to a better school and a better school, and then eventually got to Marine Special Operations Command, where I was one of a few pretty qualified guys to do a lot of stuff with dogs in the multi-purpose canine side.
Can I stop you there?
Sure.
For us common folks out here, can you go over that one more time? What it was called?
Yeah.
It's called the Special Forces, is that right?
No, not Special
No.
Forces, but the
Okay.
Marine Special Operations Command is Marine Special Operations Command for MARSOC. So it's a SOCOM entity versus Special Forces is typically like Green Berets. It's
I
Army.
see.
Same thing. Same dog club. Same. I guess different camouflage, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But the multi-purpose canine program is kind of like the super dogs. They track, they bite, they sniff. Mostly sniffing for explosives. We don't really care so much about narcotics. But yeah, we got into that, and that's where I met Tara through a long different road. Yeah.
And then Tara, what was your experience? What was your journey in dog training?
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. So I was in 4-H and I showed pigs, I showed cows, and eventually for my senior project, my mom actually is the one that gave me the idea for this, but I raised a future leader dog for the blind. So the idea was you raise the puppy from a very young age, and then it's about a year process, and you do a lot of environmental work, a lot of socialization, meeting people, just, different places and pretty much wherever a blind person would go is the idea. And then from there, so you do a lot of that training, and then the dog goes to actual starting to train for being a guide dog. So that was really probably the biggest thing that got me into the dog world. And I remember going, I think it was no, it was in New York. And I remember looking, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. But I wasn't sure, obviously, how to get there. So that was, at least, I didn't realize what my journey would look like. And then once I graduated college, I have a BA in psychology, and I ended up moving to Charleston, South Carolina. And I started working at a couple dog daycares. And then from there, I ended up working at Georgia Canine, and we did a lot of tracking with law enforcement and military, and that's where I met Gary.
There you go. And that's where I met you
Yeah.
because Trevor worked with you.
I think I met, yeah, Lynn before I met you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I met you when you were a young 20-something. So then you all met in Charleston, and then what was the journey looking like after that?
Go ahead.
Well, of course. So their company, their I don't know, group came down, and I remember some of the trainers were so excited. And I worked with a lot of law enforcement, and they're just kind of older guys. I wouldn't say boring, but definitely not exciting as some young guys coming in. And so I was excited. I mean, just in general. So I ended up meeting Gary. Basically, I know that their group was coming down and some of the trainers were excited. This was, big news for special operations to come down. We've worked with a lot of law enforcement, so I know that this was a big gig for them. I just worked with a lot of law enforcement and they were kind of older. So, I mean, I was excited for, sure, young guys coming through, whatever.
Hmm.
And
Very well.
yeah. So anyway, a fun side story of, how Gary and I met is one of the nights that we were eating and having a couple drinks. His name's Gary. So I asked him, I was like, so what's your middle name? And he tells me Lee. I'm like, well, you can't have that name. My dad's name is Gary and his middle name is Lee. And so then
Lee.
he tells me that he's a junior. So his dad's Gary Lee Sr. So I was like, okay, what are the odds? Gary's not a very common name. Well, then fast forward, we start dating almost a year later, and his mom unfortunately passes away shortly after. He was reminiscing about his mom's birthday in September. And sure enough, I asked when in September, and he told me September 18th, 1964, which happens to be my mom's exact birthday. So my mom's 12 hours older than his mom. So if God has a funny sense of humor, we met everyone important in our lives through dogs. And so basically, a Gary Lee in Illinois marries a lady born on September 18th, 1964. And then a Gary Lee in Pennsylvania marries a lady born on September 18th, 1964. And they have kids who meet in Charleston, South Carolina through dogs.
I love that story. I totally believe in that. I mean, you know, God has a plan, and that's a great love story. So, um, okay, so that's how you all met, and then I guess I wanted to. Okay, so you got married,
Mhm.
and then what happened after that? Where were you?
Within like 2 weeks of us getting married, I got orders to go to Africa for a deployment.
Oh,
And yeah, it was like kind of a culture shock because we were in like the honeymoon stage and she went from being really happy and all that stuff to me leaving and being gone for 7 months. So it was that military wave. Yeah.
when you were deployed, did you have a dog with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Every
Okay,
deployment.
and your dog. Can you tell us a little bit about your dog?
Yeah, Lando is still kicking right now. He's a Belgian Mal. Whenever he was in his working weight, he probably weighed about 67, maybe 70 pounds, pretty average. He's a multi-purpose canine that tracks, bites, and sniffs. He's kind of a softie, in my opinion, because I'm used to some pretty aggressive kind of not everybody gets to pet your dog kind of dog. And Lando
Yeah.
is the opposite. So the trainers that I had with me, they talked me into this dog, and I was like, this dog's broke. Like, this dog is too soft. He's too sweet. Not my style at all. I don't want him. And I tried to get this other one named Paco, and Paco was a knucklehead. Paco, he worked a lot, and he wouldn't out on bites, and it was the perfect dog for doing nasty stuff overseas. But he also was a horrible dog for doing nasty stuff overseas because he wouldn't stop biting. And I ended up taking Lando, but he had a really good explosive detecting nose. His nose is insane, probably the best dog I'll ever have. And we got to take him through a lot of schools, a lot of training, a couple deployments. So he got to go to Afghanistan, he got to go to Somalia. I don't know, that dog's probably got collectively, 50,000 training hours on him and over $3.5 million worth of schools. He's insane.
And
So
once again, it was meant to be. And
it was,
he's
yeah.
been with
Now he's,
you his whole life now, or the
Mhm.
rest of his life.
Yep.
I photographed you for my book, Good Dogs
Yeah.
of Service,
Yeah.
and I have you everywhere. You can see in the background, you're in this picture.
I'll be danged. I remember that picture.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
and which is in the book, and that's
But yeah,
Lando.
it's a
But
little
I will drop
different.
some more pictures in. Just wanted to show that. And then so let me ask you, so when you go on a mission like that, what does your life look like?
It's pretty basic. You're only trying to complete the day and the task at hand or the mission at hand, depending what that is. It could be a cordon and search. It could be killer capture, for some bad guys. It could be tracking somebody down that's bad or finding an IED in a bad area. Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. It could be biting guys, biting bad guys, going through houses and stuff that are known to be bad guys.
Mhm.
Yeah,
When
it's
I'm just
pretty- oh,
curious from logistics. So you're traveling with a, a canine, so you have to bring all of his food with you, medical supplies. I mean,
oh,
so in while other guys are just like packing their own gear, what kinds of things do you have to pack for you and a canine to be able to work for so long?
Uh, I mean, he's got a good gear list too. I got a separate gear bag for him, plus his house, plus his food. Water's pretty easy to get over there, whether we purify it or have bottled water. But yeah, I'd say all the important things for him, also explosives, training aids, bite suits, bite legs, some fake arm stuff, where dogs can kind of get a little bit nastier and bite some more prevalent areas. So you have to have good protection for that. And all of his gear to make him do a job at night or daytime or jumping out of a plane or jumping out of a boat or yeah, there's so much gear that goes into it. Anything that we can do as, military guys, we have to do the same thing with the dog. Yeah.
So then
Right.
you come back, and then what happens from there?
Yeah, we came back and I'd say within about a year. Yeah, definitely within a year, right? I think we came back and within a year I had orders to go down to Texas to be in charge of a couple different sections of units for the DoD's main MWD program. So they have a lot of stuff.
Okay. Yep. You're using a lot of acronyms. So
Okay.
for our guests, can you explain where you were, if you
Yeah.
can, and
Yeah.
what those acronyms mean?
Yeah. So Lackland Air Force Base is in San Antonio, Texas, and the Department of Defense is their main military working dog training hub. They don't have NPCs. NPCs is strictly a special operations thing. So the multi-purpose canine is the more advanced dog. They don't have as many dogs that do all three combinations of behavior, that we're looking for. They have kind of like dual purpose, maybe as a tracking dog and a bite dog, or maybe it's a detection dog that also bites, but they don't have one that does everything. It's not in their wheelhouse.
When I talk to people, I try to explain that these dogs have very specific skill sets because you can't do it all. So you're training, you're in San Antonio. When do you start this business that you have now? And
Bunch.
like why, and just everything, just life.
This one would probably kind of differ. I think we got here in San Antonio in 2018, and it was a very stagnant unit in comparison to special operations. They don't do as much. They don't have the same work ethic. It's not big boy rules. Yeah, it's different type of work ethic. We kind of did it for extra beer money. That's my idea. We did it for extra beer money as I was active duty, and we also had a lot of time on our hands in my first non-deployable unit. But I think Tara was more the catalyst for it. Were you? I don't think I
Yeah,
was.
because the first videos I saw for your company were Tara out there. In fact, I mean, let's talk social media. If anybody wants to see, you guys are on Instagram with all around canine training. You have a website, and you'll see Tara
All of it.
on all over those videos training. So, what? How did it all begin, or what were you feeling at that time, Tara, when you started the business?
Yeah. So after I worked in Charleston, South Carolina, where I met Gary, whenever I moved to North Carolina, we I started working with a different training company. And whenever we moved here, I could have easily gone to a couple different training companies. And I felt with, Gary's experience and with my experience that I felt that we could definitely do it better. A lot of companies don't really. Yes, training dogs is the easy part, training people is very difficult. So we wanted to incorporate more time with the owners. So that's kind of where it, I would say, began. And then, I mean, we've just been trying to change and adapt. And I would say whenever COVID hit is whenever we really, like I said, we just started this kind of for fun. We didn't really think not it would go anywhere, but we started it. And then I think whenever COVID hit, it was whenever we really
Right.
took off. And
Well,
then when
whenever I'm talking to people that have, they get a new dog, a new puppy, it just seems like everybody is so lost on what to do with a puppy, how to train the puppy, and so forth. And so well, let's get into that then, because I think it's just such a confusing area. I also think that a lot of people talk to dogs as if they were people, and they're not. They have their own language and they don't speak in words. And so that's where people like you all come in, that maybe you could kind of demystify everything and, tell us. I mean, it could either be in a case study example if you want to explain, or it could just be, you could just tell us about, okay, you get a puppy. Why do you crate training? All the questions that that you train your clients on. So, I mean, take it however you want, explain it however you want, whatever the easiest way is. If, because I'm sure you meet a lot of people that look like they have, I don't know, that they are like a deer in the headlights when they can't control their dog, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, educate us, please.
Oh, gosh, where do we even start with that one?
I know. Try.
Puppies?
Yeah.
so we have so yeah,
Yeah,
if,
go ahead.
let's at the very beginning puppy wise.
Okay. So what would I do with the puppy, or what are we fixing with the puppy? The biggest thing I think across the board, whether it's a puppy or an old dog, is what your routine and your structure is, and if you're firm, fair, and consistent. You have to have boundaries of what's acceptable and unacceptable for you in your house. Your puppy is going to be different at your house. My puppy is going to be different at my house. Even the way Tara would train a puppy at my house is going to be different than I would do it.
I'm a really good old dog owner.
Yeah, she's good at retiring dogs. I'm good at getting them to pop and lock it, Yeah, the biggest things I see with puppies and what we do and we kind of, emphasize to people is having more control. I used to just say be more strict, but that's kind of it's very
It'd go above people's
broad.
heads.
Yeah, you can't just be more strict. You got to use the right tools. You got to have the right pattern. You got to have the right communication, and you have to adjust it and see what the dog is understanding and how they're communicating back with you. So, using the kennel, it's imperative. There's lots of people that do, and there's lots of people that do not. I work with both of them. We work with some ranchers that don't use it. They don't need it for the same thing, or they have loose country orientation rules of what's acceptable and not acceptable. They want their dog to bark at people whenever it comes to the house. They want it to stay in the yard and not kill animals. Pretty easy to do, but it's also really hard to control if you don't have your dog on leash and you're not knowing where your dog's at every morning. So most people that we deal with train with their dogs and they have their dogs live with them inside their house. So creating structure and having that structure and using that routine of the kennel, it cuts so much stuff out because we can control so many variables, we can control so many outcomes. If you don't, and you say, well, everybody likes to use which tools? Probably harnesses, right?
Oh yeah.
We can always talk about harnesses, or people that are super positive reinforcement only, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a different way to train dogs, but it might be a little bit slower and it may never truly complete the negative behavior that you want to extinguish. It's okay to punish dogs, but in what level do you punish them? Well, if a puppy does something bad or pees in the floor, it's not 1990. You don't have to wad up a newspaper and go smack it in the butt. You can teach it how to understand the communication, or you understand the dog's communication of when it's making noise inside of that kennel. What is it telling you? Did it already pee? Did it already poo? Did it, was it hungry or thirsty? Or is it the most common reasons, FOMO? The dog's in the kennel and it's a new environment for him, and you're outside of the kennel and you are the distraction. You're the fun person. The dog was going to make noise. And everybody's like, well, how do you shut this dog up? I'm like, well, you can't just smack the kennel and tell him no, that doesn't work. Is the dog telling you something by communicating with you, or are you missing something? Or is the dog just not used to the pattern of what your life is, and then you get into tools. Getting into tools with puppies is all over the place. You don't need a remote collar for a dog that's, below 4 months of age. There's lots of people that do it, and there's lots of trainers that do it. We don't do it that way for 2 different reasons. If your dog doesn't know the fundamental basics of on-leash communication, like nonverbal, just using leash communication, like me pulling on Tara's shirt is giving her communication. If your dog doesn't wanna walk around the block and you stop, your dog's not the problem. You don't understand how to fix the problem, you know?
Well, I feel like a good spot to even discuss whenever it comes to tools. So we are balanced trainers. So basically that means that we all use all forms of tools. We use praise, food, treats, motivation. We also use reminders and corrections. So we do use e-collars, we use choke chains, pinch collar, gentle leads, whatever works best for the owners and for their dogs. I would say the biggest misconception whenever it comes to using training tools, they just see, oh my gosh, shot collar. Oh my gosh, that thing that, goes around their neck. They just have such negative connotations behind it. And it all goes in the form of how you use it and education. So that's same thing what we're, proud of how we educate and how we train with people. But it's one of those things I even tell people whenever it comes to positive reinforcement that if I see it in a morbidly obese dog, that tells me that treats aren't being used properly or food. And to me, that's a form of dog abuse as well. Whenever people call and they say, oh, do you use one of those shot collars? That tells me that they're not educated whenever it comes to the tools. So, the first and foremost, whenever it comes to training, is building the rapport between you and your dog. So, same thing whenever people call that they'll tell their dog, I think their dog thinks its name is no. No, stop jumping. No, stop barking. No, this, no, that. That, yes, dogs are 100% not the same as kids. But if we're only communicating and responding to our dog with negative behavior, it's kind of like the kids in school where they act out. Negative
Right.
attention is still attention. So even if we do use these tools, even if you do use corrections, we're shaping the behaviors of what we're looking for. So, instead of telling the dog no of only what you want to do, that that rapport between you and your dog is super important. So asking your dog to do things around the house. So we like to have a saying, it's called our dogs pay rent by listening. I don't really ask much from my dog, but I want him to be, well-mannered whenever people come in. I need him to listen if there's a high distraction. So I want my dog to be able to go in public with me and not create a scene or a nuisance.
Yes.
So that's what a lot of people want. So at the end of the day, instead of just correcting the negative behaviors, I always like to use an example with our miniature schnauzer where, we had a baby, life happens. We tell all of our clients this, we're real with them for sure, where he had more freedom than he had structure at some points. And he'll go to the back window and he looks in the window and he growls and he's waiting for my response. So of course, if I tell him no, I can correct that behavior. But at the end of the day, that was the only attention that he was getting. And that's still good attention to him. So it tells me in the back of my mind that I need to communicate with my dog by asking him to do things. Because at the end of the day, if you're not asking and demanding things from your dog around the house, well, whenever there is a distraction, whether someone comes into your house or whenever you're trying to walk around the street or the block and there's another dog, why would your dog have to listen if they're not listening when there's no distractions?
That's a good way to explain it. I know you do a lot of training by you train at your business, but then you also take them to Lowe's and out in the community and you practice. You also, I believe, for clients, existing clients and former clients, that you all meet up and practice the dog skills again so that it's if they need help or maybe they're having a problem with one of the commands or tools, you help them. You don't just like train the dog and say see you later. Like they're always in contact with you. And so I love that. And and then the other thing that I get in a lot of conversations with people is when you're talking about tools, just like invisible fence and so forth, they've got the audible signals. Is that not correct? Do
Yeah,
they have
audible.
audible signals?
Yeah.
A lot of it, even just using the tools in general, it's how you use them. So
Yeah.
we always do, like Gary said, everything on leash before incorporating the
Yeah.
e-collar. So then we pair everything together and then eventually we can extinct the leash and have off leash control.
Right. What about voice inflection?
Mhm.
Like, does
Huge.
that play a part?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How does
Pitch.
can you explain that?
Yeah. The easiest way to really describe it is how your mom tells you to clean your room and how your dad tells you to clean your room.
Okay.
In different aspects, my mom, in my case, was a lot sweeter, but my dad was definitely more direct. So if my mom's like, "Hey, please clean your room," she's asking me to. Maybe even twice. But my dad would say, when you get home from work, or he got home from work, get your butt in there and you clean that room. The pitch, the tone, the inflection, even the body language, how he said it was different. Like he meant it and he was going to reinforce it. So it's the same way you do with dogs. If I take a step towards you and I say no, and I'm like, no, I mean it, but I'm really soft voiced, and everybody does this. And guys do it, girls do it. It doesn't make a difference. Some girls have better drill instructor voices than the guys, and the opposite. Girls have the softer mom voice, and the dog kind of takes advantage of them. The dogs know they manipulate people every day.
Yeah.
You know,
I've got a couple questions just from talking to friends. What would you say if I was looking for a puppy and I knew nothing about breeds and I told you I really like the way Malinois look. I want to get a Malinois puppy. Tell me what you would say to me.
Well, if a lot of people will call or just even in conversations, wow, that and they pause or hesitate and they say the Malinois. That Malinois is pretty. And so that's already a tall tale sign that they don't know the breed. So it's a quick in my mind. I'm like, well, if you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't have it.
I love that. Well, but so the reason I ask you that is I literally sat next to someone on the plane 2 days ago, 45-minute plane ride, and that was his question. Well, that was our conversation, was that they were going to look for a puppy and it was probably going to be a Malinois, but yet they didn't know much about the breed. So, okay,
Mm.
so you've got Malinois, you've got Labs, you've got Collies. If I was a person looking for a puppy, like, how do you explain this to people? Okay, if you want a dog, what to look for? I mean, you guys are two people on the planet. We all can't be hounding you for advice. So, where do people start in knowing what dog is best for them? Well, what dog's best for them?
I would go off of obviously the everything with the characteristics of the human. Is it a high drive person? Are you 18 years old? Are you going to college? Are you retired? Are you 81 years old? Yeah, the characteristics what I look for in what people should have which dog. I can't tell people which dogs to have, but I can give them a really professional education on why this makes more sense or why it doesn't make sense. So if you're a very active lifestyle type person, then you can have a very active lifestyle dog. But if you're not a very active lifestyle person,
Yes.
you shouldn't have a very energetic type of dog that requires a job or a task to do. If you think a Malinois is going to sit in your house and hang out on the couch, I would say it's the closest thing to a dinosaur that can live in your house because they will destroy it.
Yeah.
We've got dogs that have records. And Malinois, within 2 hours, did over $25,000 of damage in a former military working dog trainer's house or condo, if you will, in North Carolina. Chewed doors in half, ripped up carpet, broke sliding glass doors, broke tables, broke the plumbing. God, it was awesome. The pictures were crazy. And the guy knew what kind of dog it was, but he's definitely a person that had the lifestyle. He shouldn't have that dog. He was still active duty military. His wife was a teacher. She was busy, 40 hours, probably more than that, 50 hours a week. So the dog didn't have a lot of outlets for exercise. Horrible combination. He didn't end up keeping the dog. But if you were an 80-year-old lady, I'd say you don't need a 65-pound dog, let alone a Malinois. I'd say, hey, why
Yeah.
don't you get a smaller dog that's easier for control? And you don't have to have a lap dog. I'm cool with having big dogs, but maybe get a docile one that has a little bit less behavior or look for that because you can get some docile Mals, not a whole lot of them, but you can get some very energetic labs that are, hunting breeds and stuff. And there's a difference when people get a lab that like sits on the couch and there's a lab that's like a working lab that retrieves ducks. They have a whole different energy level and a whole different dynamic of how you have to teach them, you know?
thank you for explaining it. So, yeah, you just started with the basis of what does your lifestyle look like? When we got Charlotte, we got her out of a hunting facility, and originally I thought, "Oh, maybe I'll do some therapy work with her." Well, no. When I got her, I clearly saw that she was the athlete. She was not a dog that was gonna sit around and wanna be pet by other people, and so that was very clear to me, so I appreciate you explaining that distinction.
Well, even
Mm,
to add to that a little bit with what Gary said,
yeah,
a lot of people have, I mean, I know in different areas we have like more breed specific, so we have a lot of herding dogs. So
yeah,
even whenever the one of the biggest things that people, they have Australian shepherds, healers, and I'll ask whenever they call or whenever they're, have complaints about their dog. Oh, well, they're hurting my children. What do we know about the dog? So the number one thing is definitely, yes, going off of the activity level from your household for sure, but making sure to read up on the breed and if this is something that you can commit to, because it's not just a year commitment. Obviously, dogs live anywhere from 10 to 15 years depending on the breed, but it's an everyday commitment. So,
Yeah. With that, I'd even say the capacity of the family dynamic. If you're a single person, young male or female in your college days, you probably have a really chill, cool dog. You have plenty of time to mess with it. If you're a single parent and you live in an apartment and you have 3 kids and you're on the 3rd floor, it's probably not as convenient for you to have that dog. Yeah. We deal with
uh,
a lot of that.
right. So back to being you 2 are 2 people and are awesome dog trainers, but there's a whole country of people getting dogs, and they can't all go to you. What is your best advice for looking for a dog trainer in for a person that gets a puppy and has to look in their own area for a dog trainer? Are there qualities that you would look for?
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
that's a good one.
Go ahead.
I would definitely say that you want the dog trainer to align with the values and that you want to work with. It also goes along, does your dog have behavioral issues? So I can even tell you, of course, some people they're more drawn to positive reinforcement. That's completely fine versus, using the tools and balance training. If your dog has a lot of behavioral issues, positive reinforcement training is not going to work.
Right.
We retrain a lot of dogs that come from, different facilities here. And, we can do more in an evaluation in an hour than they do in 12 sessions. And I'm not to say that, some of their training doesn't work, but a lot of the times the training gets misconstrued. So, I mean, even our neighbor a few years ago that we'd be like, hey, do you want some help with your dog? She was reactive. I think she'd try to chase cars. And she's like, no, 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 I'm good. And she would basically take the treat and try to lure her dog. So the
Right.
distraction would go and her dog would be going crazy. And then once everything passed, then the dog would eat the treat. So she was actually rewarding all of the negative behavior. And she wasn't obviously doing it intentionally, but that's what she took out of some of the training. So a lot of people don't realize that they start rewarding the wrong behavior. The dog may have been barking and, fence fighting, but the dog eventually came to you, so they gave a treat. I was like, oh, well, you just rewarded all that behavior. Oh,
I'm guilty of that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Thank you for explaining that.
I don't know.
Um,
What do you add for that?
Oh gosh. Okay. So if you're looking for a dog trainer in your area, the first thing you need to do, and this is what I tell everybody on the phone, if somebody's trying to sell you something so hard, don't go to them. You want to find the trainer that's just going to be honest with you, give you the 20 or 30 minutes of time to talk, tell you what they do, probably do an evaluation with you. And then what I like to do for everybody is let them see how we do it. Like we call it a transformation evaluation. Come hang out with me for an hour, talk to me about dogs, watch how we fix the little problems that you're having, and let's talk about the structure and routine and all the things you are controlling or you're not controlling. And obviously tell me your goals and your expectations. I'm going to tell you mine. If you don't want to kennel your dog, I probably don't want to train with you. I don't think you're going to be able to maintain and
right,
sustain. I don't want to, I will depict on the people that we work with by if I can find success in the human, not necessarily the dog. The dog's the easiest part of my job. We speak dog in a different way, but the humans, if you can't maintain it, or, say it's an aggressive dog and, you have 4 grandkids under the age of 5, I would say, why do you have that dog? Does it
right.
make sense? I can't find success in that, I give people the honest truth. I'm going to tell them, like, this doesn't make sense to have this dog. I don't think I can find success in you for longevity. I'm going to decline you. A lot of people don't do that. They're not where we are at in our career, where we can turn down a lot of people, and it doesn't hurt what we do. We don't look for the quantity of dogs. We look for the quality of dogs. Where there's a lot of people that, if you go to a big franchise canine training place, you're going to get somebody that's less experienced than what you think. Or
Right.
somebody's going to do it. And even where we're at, we have a very high standard for our trainers. But, if you go to I'm not going to name any franchise
No.
canine
Yeah.
shops. If it's a big one and they have 25 trainers, I promise you that they don't have the same standard. And they might have some really good trainers there, but across the board, it's not going to be the same. So trust your gut, find out where your dog is sleeping, find out who's training your dog, and how much you're going to get trained as a human. If you're only going to get an hour of training and you're going to push for 2, 3, 4 weeks of training, or maybe say 2 or 3 hours the last day, that's not a trainer you should go to. That's what everybody's board and train is, and that's what the product is. That across the board, that in this industry, I think that's the problem. People don't train the human enough. They train the dog. Just because I can train your dog really damn good, I can't just give it back to you and expect you to do the same thing.
Mhm.
So our kind of way I train, and we want to teach it our clients and our trainers to do, is I want 90% of that lesson to be the leash in your hand. And I'm going to maybe show you a couple tricks. I'm going to put the leash back in your hand, because the more I teach you, the better you're going to get. The more
Yeah.
you watch me, you might pick up some small things, but it's not going to make practice makes perfect, right? You want to get better at running. What do you need to do? Run more. You want to get better at dog training. You need to train more with
You
better people than you. If you're
you
the
have to put
smartest
the
dog trainer,
hours in.
100%, have some work ethic. It's
Right.
it's definitely changed in the past. And don't look for the YouTube certified dog trainer. Just because you trained your grandma's dog and your neighbor's dog doesn't mean you're a dog trainer.
Right.
The
Right.
the CPDT, it's the certified professional dog trainer, like cert. I think is kind of BS. Yeah. Even if I were to print off a certificate that says I was a good dog trainer, do you trust a piece of paper that anybody can print off? Or
Right.
maybe you should look a little more into it. How many dogs have you trained? The questions I would ask a trainer is, how many dogs have you trained? How do you train? What if my dog bit you in the nose? How would you fix it?
Mhm.
Ask those questions. If the trainer can't ask or answer 55 of your questions, if you ask 55, they better have 55 answers. If not, they're not the right trainer for you. Keep searching, you know?
And to kind of go on that too, just to add a little bit more, a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of people have the mentality, if okay, my dog has a problem, or I'm searching for dog trainers, they want the instant fix. Yeah, we're in the society where we want to throw money at things and have it fixed, but don't put the work in. So I always like to use the analogy, dog training is just like going to the gym. You can buy a gym membership, but if you don't go, you're not going to see results. And then
Yes.
even if you do go and you have goals and you see results, you have to maintain it. And that's the hardest part. So it's like Gary said, everything else, but you have to put the work in. Even if you pay to have someone do a board and train or a day train, you still have to do your end of the bargain too.
Yeah. That's really good advice. Well, I guess for people, watching this, if they like it, there's plenty of your videos to be watching on your website, and I know that it won't help them with their dog training, but I think it will help them get their own questions so that they can look for a dog trainer. The other thing is, on my website, I do have a resource page where I put up dog trainers, and y'all are already on it. So, that's another resource. But I think really just looking at your website and just seeing all the work that you've done, I think is very educational for anybody that's watching this. So I appreciate you explaining all that, because
Yeah.
right back to it, it's all about the person, and dogs don't speak a human language. Well, they do, but they have their own language, and you guys are the professionals on that end, whereas we're the common folk, and there's a distinction there. So I guess my last couple of questions is, what are the top questions you guys get asked, if you wanted to answer that question, like about what you do, or even about Lando? And then the other thing is, are there any special topics that you really want people to know, like, this is time to get on your soapbox. Now, you might have already done that. I don't know, but
Huh.
if you kind of have a platform, have at it.
Let's do frequently asked questions first.
Okay.
Let's do that. So what do you think the top 5 are?
I I think one of the biggest things is people are unsure whenever it comes to using the tools. I mean, they just see the tools and they just automatically think negative, especially whenever it comes to the e-collar. That's at least I remember one of the things that I would talk a lot on the phone and, educating people wise.
Yeah.
But, I can give two different examples where I had the e-collar where it's all on how we use it. So if we only use it as a form of punishment and we have a dog, her name's Stella. She's a German Shepherd. He reinforced the training. He loved training. She loved training. It was a perfect combination. And so, of course, it got to a point where she just trained so well. He only used voice. And he's like, I don't even use the e-collar anymore. And so we explained how to slowly take it off. And it was over a couple weeks. And sure enough, I think we eventually reached out to him, a couple weeks after. And sure enough, he goes, actually, she went through a depression. He goes, by taking off the equipment and her tools, that was her, her gear every day. So she kind of was slumped, like she was just, kind of going through a depression. And he goes, as soon as the day, I put it back on, he goes, it was like her eyes lit up.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's kind of like a working dog going to work. You put the
Mhm.
vest on and they start lighting up.
Yeah.
So that dog was going to
Yep.
work. Okay, so on the other end,
He loved it. And then on the other end, so this happens more often than not, unfortunately, it kind of goes back to, how we're communicating and how we're building that rapport with our dogs. I mean, even in this case, and our children. But basically, they'd only communicate to their dogs whenever they're doing something wrong. So there's small dogs, they're little chihuahuas, and they love training. To me, I love whenever we get a small dog and they're doing backflips. They are just what's next. They're, just like a big dog. They're sitting, they're laying down, they love it. And sure enough, it turned into that. This was, I mean, months after we got done training, that they're like, well, why whenever we put the e-collar on, they're shaking? Is what that's happening is they're not using the tools daily. And whenever they are finally using the tools, it's out of frustration. So they're mad that their dog's not listening. They're mad that their dog's not barking or stopping jumping. So they basically get the tools out of frustration and they put it on their dog. Knock it off, and then, anger obviously is followed with it. So now it's only used as completely, obviously, form of punishment and negatively. So, and then of course, like the dog wouldn't walk around and she was slumped around and she knew she was in trouble. But this is where the difference is that we're, with Stella, she's a German Shepherd. She wants to train. The owner wants to train. And on the other end, the owners only would communicate with them whenever the dogs were doing bad.
gotcha. Oh, that's a good point. We'll wrap up on a high note. Is Lando around?
Lando is around somewhere. He's 15 and gosh dang, he'll be 16 in September actually. Yeah,
He'll
he'll be 16.
He'll be 16?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah. Right around September 11th, I think the 10th or 11th. Yeah.
I've never had a dog that has even lasted past, I don't know, 13 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
been
how
lucky.
is that possible? Is it the food you give them? Is it the love you give them? I mean,
I don't know.
it's
I wish I
everything.
could ask and find that answer. It's see him. All right, we'll show you Lando.
Yeah.
Fluffy.
Oh yeah, that's a retired war dog. Don't mind show me and his hippo.
That's awesome. Okay, I just wanted to see him, and whenever I see him, he always has like a little something he's carrying around. So,
Yeah, that's his
Fire.
emotional support animal.
well, I just love. You know what? I'm going to throw in one more question. I know
Sure.
we've gone like almost an hour now,
Oh, you're good.
but Lando got, I don't know if he got really lucky. He got lucky because he gets to live with you.
Oh, yeah.
Here's my question that I actually didn't have on my mind originally, but how did you get Lando? If he was a military dog, how did you get him? And I'm so glad you've gotten, but
Me too.
Mm.
Yeah, me too.
how did that all work?
So across the board with military dogs, there's You can adopt your dog. Not everybody can get it, right? For special operations is different. If your dog was towards the end of their 5+ years, then the handler that had the most deployments got the first chance to retire that dog and take them home.
That has the most deployments.
Yeah, yeah, more or less. Or obviously, if it wouldn't make sense and I had a lot of deployments with my dog and this young guy that doesn't live at the barracks, can, and I have 6 kids and I've got an attack dog, it might not make sense for me to take that dog home.
Okay.
So somebody inside the kennel or somebody that knows that dog is the only one that's really going to get it. You might get a police agency or something that gets one that's not quite towards the expiration date of how much they can still work. Basic conventional forces, across the board, they can still get the opportunity to adopt their dogs. It's a little bit harder, I think, for them because it's a bigger kennel, and they usually want to get their money's worth out of the dog. So, I mean, there's some military working dogs that are damn near 10, 11 years old and they're still working. I'm like, why? Like, give this dog the couch, like he's past his prime. So, for our military NPCs, I think we wanted 5 years out of every dog. And, if your dog was like 8, that's kind of like the pinnacle, a 9-year-old dog. I don't think we had a lot of 9-year-old dogs, but it might do one more deployment. Conventional forces, when we were really heavy with Iraq and Afghanistan, they were working dogs a little bit longer than they probably should have. Or, it's a dog they trust, it's a dog that's smart. Why not work it? That dog
What
saves one person's life. It's worth it.
yeah. What has Lando brought to your life?
Man, I think
Uh-oh, I'm gonna make you
honestly,
cry. I'm sorry.
Lando's probably the only reason that I landed Tara. I think she liked my dog more than me at first.
That's fair.
Yeah. I can't even talk enough about him. He was a dog that I got towards I'd say still the middle of, gosh, when did I get him? 2013 or 14. I'd probably been training dogs, not professionally. I was still learning a lot. I'm still learning a lot now. You should never be done learning. So if you're a dog trainer and you're done learning and you're the best person there, then you're probably in the wrong job. Everybody will say that. If I can't learn something from a new guy or learn from something from a new dog, then I'm probably not in the spot I should be. Like, dogs teach us more than what you think. With Lando, I got him after I'd made a lot of mistakes, so I got a really impressionable new ball of clay that I got to shine and sharpen up. And like I said, he wasn't really my dog. He was not my style that I wanted. The trainers that I have above me, both my really, really good buddies, you've met them both because you were at our wedding, Pat and Jake. Yeah, those guys kind of picked the dog and I fought it. I was like, this dog's too soft. He's jumping up, licking my face. I don't want him. He's not my style. I want a real, kind of rough dog. Those are more fun and entertaining once you understand them. And his nose was amazing. So I had to go back and go through another school because one of my dogs passed away from bloat right as I got through all the training. But you know what? It was probably meant to happen that way. Rest in peace, Neo. He's the one that got bloat. And they sent me back to the same school to get Lando. And I'd already been to the 13 or 14 week course. So I was kind of chilling with it. It wasn't really hard. I knew what to expect. And I had a really good dog. And I didn't know how good his nose was until, well, I'll just be honest. I showed up to work and we were probably out a little bit too late. I probably still smelled like booze. And they blindfolded me and they're like, oh, you're not taking this course serious. They said, well, we're going to make you search with your dog blindfolded if you think you're that good. And the pattern of his sniffing behavior with his nose, and anybody can do this. It's not just like Lando was an awesome dog, but if you really truly know your dog, you don't have to have your eyes. You can hear how your dog is smelling and you hear what your dog is doing and you know where he's at in whatever room. Well, I went for like, I don't know, nine for 9 with explosive searches in an old abandoned school where they just take me to the door and I cut my dog off leash and I was blindfolded and I'm hearing the sniffing pattern. I'm hearing what he's jumping on and if he's sniffing low and if his pattern got really slow or if he bracketed differently or if it got really quiet and then I could just hear his tail wagging, because he knew he's on explosives. But you could hear the change in the behavior. I'm like, oh, he's on it. And, the first couple of times I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll give it a shot. I mean, I might be wrong, but whatever. I wasn't wrong. The dog was right. All I had to do was pay attention to him and he would teach you everything if you were paying attention right. Most people miss the subtle stuff. It takes a lot to learn the behavior. Just because your dog can smell explosives doesn't mean you have to make your dog sit on explosives. What if my dog can show me a change of, behavior and a different pattern at 200 yards away from a really big explosive? Well, do I need my dog to go over there and sit on it? Absolutely not. Call your dog back and we're not going to mess with that big pile or that intersection of the road. So Lando was, he's like my final product probably. He's a dog that was very impressionable and don't get me wrong, he's still teaching me things daily now, but yeah, he brought everything good. I got to go to a lot of competitions with him. I got to learn a lot with that. I got to, That dog's probably bit 40 people. He's bit a lot of my friends. If you stepped on him back in the day, he would bite you. If you weren't mean, you gave him a correction on a choke chain, he would bite you. If you elbowed him whenever he was in the back of a rental car and I wasn't there, he would bite you. If you took his food bowl away the wrong way, he would bite you. He had a lot of bites, and he had a lot of good bites too, as in like on bad guys. But yeah, I don't know. I learned a lot from him. He's like the great white buffalo. I don't think I'll ever have another dog. I know I won't have another dog like him because there's no way I would have the dog that goes through all those schools and all that training. And I pretty much lived with this dog for the first 13 months I had him, like straight, like no breaks, no days off. The first time I put him back in his kennel, I had to take vacation after deployment, and it was like 10 days. And he looked at me and I looked at him and I'm like, I guess you got to like live in this kennel now. I'm going to leave. And he just kind of looked at me like, dude, where are you going? I'm like, this is really weird, isn't it? You know? It's almost like I was breaking up with him for a second. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what
Well,
the question is.
I'm going to have to cut you off there or I'm going to start crying. So, because obviously it was meant to be. He's 16 years old.
In there.
He's sitting behind you with a fluffy toy. I mean, and the life you've had. I mean, it is absolutely meant to be. So we will end there. And can you, I guess, can you just let me know what your website is? Is there social media people can find you at?
Yeah.
We're all around canine training. Our website is www.aak9.dog, and we're under Facebook and Instagram under all around canine training. And it
Great.
has the full logo. So
Great. Well, thanks for speaking to me. This is, boy, I've been wanting to do this interview for a long, long time. So,
Yeah.
and that was a great way to end it. All right. Well, thanks again, and we will see you soon.
Thanks for having
thank
us.
you,
Don't-
Lynn. We appreciate it.
Good.